Called Jami-Lee Ross.
Mr Chair, thank you. I'm pleased to make a contribution on this part. I'm sensing a bit of tension between the Greens and the Labor potential coalition for the future. Once again, they're fighting each other, they're having difficulties, and I do wonder whether they'll be able to ever form a government together. Mr Chair, I think it's worthwhile... Mr Chair, I think it's worthwhile having some further discussion around this whole age issue, because it's very important to remember this is not compulsory. It's not reintroducing an age limit. It is completely voluntary. If a person over the age of 65, after the next election, if Mr O'Rourke wishes to serve on a jury, he will be able to. He will be able to if he chooses to. And he can choose to, because we're not reintroducing an age limit. Let's just look at a bit of history around the age 65, because I think it's important to have a look at the history around it. The age 65 in the Juries legislation was actually reintroduced by a previous piece of legislation in the year 2000. The year 2000, the Labor Party was in government. In the year 2000, the Labor Party put in place legislation which specifically referred to the age 65, whereby those over the age of 65, for the very reason that they're over the age of 65, could apply to the registrar asking to be excused. The only problem with that legislation is that every time they wish to be excused, they have to keep going backwards and forwards asking to be re-excused. Essentially, all we're doing through this piece of legislation on this particular aspect is giving those people over the age of 65 the option to be permanently excused. And we're even going further than that and giving them a further option to say if they did decide they wanted to be permanently excused but then change their mind, they can then come back and say, no, actually, I would like to serve in a jury. So I see this as actually giving those over the age of 65 greater flexibility, greater freedom, greater ability to determine what they wish to do for their own lives, and that's a good thing. And you have to say, if one is standing in this House arguing that having an age of 65 as an age in which people can make a choice for themselves is ageism, then those same people must also believe that superannuation is ageism. The age around superannuation is ageism. No, it's not. The Minister for Senior Citizens herself suggests that perhaps the school age is ageism, because that is an age in a piece of legislation. Well, it's not, and it's quite a poor argument. But you also have to ask yourself, if this is such a big issue out there, if older people out there are outraged, supposedly, as we hear from the other side, that an age flexibility is being reintroduced and applied in this way in this legislation. Perhaps older people are making submissions in huge numbers. Guess how many submissions there were on this bill? 3. Did Age Concern submit on this bill in the first instance? No, they didn't. They had to be asked to submit before they provided any information. Did Grey Power submit on this issue? Grey Power is very vocal whenever it comes to an issue around older people. Grey Power did not submit in the first instance. They didn't submit when they were asked to provide some information as well. But Age Concern, when they came back after being asked to submit, gave some interesting perspectives, because Age Concern actually asked older people what they thought. Here are some of the comments from older people. Life is easy for some and not for others. Giving people a choice makes sense. We believe in choice. Since the proposal gives people a choice, I think it's a good idea, says another older person. Good on those who feel ready and able to appear for jury service, but let's show some respect for those who don't. I say to those people who are opposing having this particular aspect in the legislation to show some respect for those who don't feel they're in a position to be able to serve in a jury and wish to exercise the rights we want to give them to permanently excuse themselves from a jury. It's very simple. It's not that controversial. It's not that easy to understand. I think it deserves the House's support.
Members, the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Chairman, I want to say that